Hey guys, Z here. The purpose of this video is I am going to go into an interview with Daniel O'Malley, the owner of Blade Gallery. And if you don't know who he is and or what he does, he's going to tell us about that now. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to pose to him, and he's going to give us some good advice in terms of what we need to do in order to get noticed by guys like him, in order to better the work that we do, and hopefully sell some knives to the American market. So here we have Daniel. Thank you for spending time with me, Daniel. If you can just give us a brief introduction of yourself and what you do, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Blade Gallery is a project that started back in 1996. At that point, I was just finishing my apprenticeship as a bladesmith under Bob Kramer. And I was talking to some other knife makers, and we were trying to say, what could we do to market our work, to get people to see what it was that we were doing, and not just take a picture of a knife and suddenly send it off. And so we started out building individual websites for makers, and then at some point we said, well, what happened if we put several different makers work together? And from that, Blade Gallery started with a small group of about 15 makers, and then grew into, now we represent around 500 to 600 unique makers from around the world. And so it's been a really fun project.
Okay, fantastic. So Daniel, what is it that you look for in a knife in order for you to take it onto Blade Gallery, or in order for you to purchase it for resale onto Blade? Because essentially that's what you do. You purchase the blades and you resell them on Blade Gallery. So what is it? Does the maker have to be a guild member? What is it that you look for?
It's not necessarily that someone's a guild member. It's not necessarily even that they're well known yet. A lot of what I'm looking for is someone that is creating a unique piece that is somewhat captivating, that is high fit and finish, but isn't the same as what everyone else is doing. And that mix of sort of originality mixed with good work can help us to then introduce that person's work to a wider audience.
So let's talk a little bit about fit and finish. What are, if you could say, 3 basics to fit and finish, or 3 points? What would be the 3 main points to fit and finish that a maker needs to focus on? And if you feel there's more than 3, feel free to tell me.
Absolutely. There's a few different things, and obviously a little different for a fixed blade versus a folder. With folders these days, number one issue is centering. And while it may not seem that important to every maker, because it may not affect actual function, it's the first thing that a knife collector is going to look at. Is that blade perfectly centered when it's closed? When you're dealing with fixed blades, and folders I suppose, the joint between materials is critical. If there's that slightest gap, or if that gap especially varies at one side, that it's a little bit wider than on the other side, that can be the kind of thing that really turns off a collector, even if it doesn't necessarily represent the most important things that we care about with a knife, which is probably how does it perform. That fit and finish is what makes a user feel like they've gotten something that someone really cared about when they were making it. I think beyond that, you want to look at quality materials. The difference of picking up wood that's been well aged, picking up really interesting man-made materials, whether it's some of the ultra-modern carbon fibers that are so unique and so captivating, or whether it's even something more simple like a micarta that's just a little bit more interesting than the other one. It makes a huge difference in the overall appeal of a piece. And then lastly, I want to throw a 4th one in there, which is a little bit more subjective, which is just when you're looking at the piece, do the color themes, do the materials work cohesively together? It's easy to have 3 beautiful materials, but they work separately. They don't hold together as a unit. And so just the overall feel of a knife, do the colors work, do the themes work, or does it look like you're wearing a shirt with dots on it and pants with stripes on it?
Yes.
It makes a huge difference.
Fantastic. So now, let's say, for interest's sake, there is a maker. What do they need to do in order to get recognized by somebody like you?
Well, certainly when we're traveling to shows, I'm always looking to see if there's a maker whose work I haven't yet seen who's doing something interesting.
Yes.
But certainly I can't emphasize enough, having a web presence is important. Whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's one's own website, something that I and then other makers and other buyers can look at that maker's work and get an idea not just of the 5 pieces that they might have in a show, but of the wider range of their work, how those pieces fit in. Are these the best pieces that the maker's ever made, or are they a mediocre sampling of them? And so that can be really helpful in understanding, is this maker's work a good investment in the long run?
Fantastic, fantastic. I think that about covers the questions I had. Is there any bits of wisdom or advice that you can give to young and aspiring up-and-coming makers?
Well, I would say one of the most important ones is that there is that big temptation to say, I want to become a full-time knife maker. And certainly there's a value to that, and there's a pride in knowing this is what I do, this is how I support myself. That said, it's important to do that at the right time. It's easy to become a successful part-time knife maker who, when you go full-time, it begins to feel a lot like work, and your passion is no longer enjoyable. And so making sure that you are at a cusp where if you had a few more hours to make knives, that you could then benefit your career in knife making, that can be tremendously a good time to go full time. If on the other hand, you're building up knives, you're producing great work, but they're not yet known, I'd wait a little bit while so that it stays the fun and passion that it is.
Fantastic. Daniel, I know your time is valuable. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I had a fantastic time. Thank you.
Guys, you've heard it from the man himself, Daniel O'Malley, who's been supporting South African knife makers for quite a long time. Take his words to heart. Use them, because remember, I'm not here just to sell you stuff. I want to see you make better knives. See you out.